One of the major new features in Super Mario Maker 2 was the addition of a story mode. This story mode is made up of 120 different levels showcasing many of the elements in the game and how they can be used. However, with so many levels, some are bound to be worse than others. So today, I'm going to be ranking all 120 Mario Maker 2 story mode levels from the worst to the best. Now what exactly am I going to be basing these levels off of? Well, there are two main things I'm going to be looking at: how creative they are and how fun they are. Since these story mode levels are supposed to show off what you can do in the game's editor, creativity is very important as it'll be able to help aid other creators by giving them new ideas. How fun a level is also important because, well, if I'm not having fun, then I don't care how creative your level is. I'll also be reviewing a few smaller things along the way, like secrets or alternate paths. Keep in mind that I won't go too in-depth for every level since there are 120 of them. But with that said, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel, but now let's jump right into the ranking. And the easily worst level in Mario Maker 2 story mode is 120, Snake Blocks in the Sky. There are so many things wrong with this level that I don't even know where to start. First off, it's essentially an auto-scroll level. While the screen doesn't technically scroll by itself, waiting on a snake block is essentially the same thing. Personally, I hate auto-scroll levels most of the time. I like having full control over how fast you can complete something, so having to slowly wait for the screen or platform to move with you is a massive downside for me. Secondly, this level looks like it took 5 minutes to make at most. This is by far the most empty feeling level in the entire game. You just have to stay on the snake block and occasionally there are a few coins to collect. Real exciting gameplay, dev team. You want to guess how many obstacles there are in this level? Go ahead, take a wild guess. If you guessed 1, then you'd be way over because they didn't put a single thing that can damage Mario into the stage. At least the rest of the stages, as bad as the next few may be, feel like they had an idea. This one, there's legitimately nothing. I feel nothing while playing this level. There's no challenge, nothing fun to look at, nothing at all. This is an absolute embarrassment of a level, so this easily deserves to be last place. 119, Save Me Snake Block. Oh great, another snake block level. Well, let's start with the positives. This looks like there was an actual idea for a level. Do I like the idea? No, not at all, but at least it's there. The level does look pretty nice, but that's about all the credit I can give this. Not only is this an actual auto-scroll level, but it's also underwater, which just feels so horribly slow. In this level, you have to use the snake block to defend from enemies. However, this isn't really fun to do at all. In fact, I'd say this level is a lot less fun than the last one, but this one had creativity behind it, so I gave it some more credit. Yeah, I don't feel like talking about this level anymore, let's move on. 118, Parabeetle Transfer. Thank God it's not another snake block level. In this level, we have to ride on top of Parabeetles as they slowly make their way. Oh, come on, it's basically another auto-scroller. The only reason this is above the last one is because the level is shorter, but this is still agonizingly slow. The obstacles are extremely easy to avoid in this level, so this isn't even intense to make up for its slow speed. But yeah, for being shorter than the last one, this gets the edge. 117, Sea of Sorrow. What an accurate title. At the very least, this one isn't an auto-scroller. All it is the longest underwater level you've played in your entire life. This just has you go to a bunch of random underwater rooms with absolutely none of them having anything to do with each other. 1 second you're killing boos, the next you're moving thwomps, this is just a mess. Underwater mechanics are not fun in the slightest, so in turn, neither is this level. 116, Cheep Cheep Maze. Oh boy, another underwater level. This time though, you can't see anything. Yeah, I hate moving slow, and I really hate not being able to see anything. Add on the fact that you have to wait for the Cheep Cheeps to move so you can move past them, and you have the recipe for a horrible level. At least it's shorter than the last one, I guess. 115, Darkness Ahead, Darkness Below. Oh wow, another darkness level. This time though, we get the luxury of it being on land. This level is just extremely boring. There's really only 2 obstacles, and the rest of the level consists of walking since you can't see anything in front of you. Hopefully our next level will actually let us be able to see. 114, With a Lantern. Okay, another darkness level. At the very least, this has an idea where you have to follow a source of light. Do I think this is fun? No, not really, but at least it's trying to be creative. This level also makes the lights even dimmer than normal with the on-off switch, so yeah, I really appreciate that. I'm kind of running out of things to say about these darkness levels. Let's hope they end soon. 113, the darkness— oh, for crying out loud! Okay, the darkness lifts is our last darkness level, thankfully, and I do find it to be a bit more bearable than the others. This has Mario ride a lift around some enemies. Luckily, the enemies actually act as light sources since we're in the Mario World style, making this level a significant step up from the others. The amount of enemies also makes this a bit more exciting than the others as well, though still not good because I really can't see much of anything. 112, Swamp Escape by Shell. This level has Mario use the Dry Bone Shell, Dry Bones for Smash, in order to ride over poison. That concept is fine, though the problem here is that this is an auto-scroll level and you have to spend most of the level waiting for the poison to move. There is almost nothing exciting at all about this level and it goes on for over a minute. Sure, there are a few skewers, but you're almost never going to hit them as long as you wait for the screen to scroll. On top of all this, there are also much better Dry Bone Shell levels later on, which just makes this one stand out as being worthless. 111, Dirty Donuts. This level uses the brand new vertical levels introduced in Mario Maker 2 in order to make him stand on top of donut blocks. Yet again, we have another level that just feels like pointless waiting as you slowly wait on each individual donut block for it to fall. To give this level some credit though, I don't find it that annoying to play, and there are a few enemies that can keep you on your toes, but most of the time there's no chance of them hitting you. The idea for this level is really stupid, but yeah, in all honesty it could have been worse, which puts it above the last few entries. 110, Stone from the River. This is our first level to feature an element not present in the game's maker. Don't ask me why a Maker game story mode would have levels impossible to recreate, I genuinely do not have an answer for you. This has Mario need to carry a heavy stone to the end of the level. Carrying this stone however slows Mario's movement significantly, and while that works fairly well in the other stone levels, that's actually the main problem here. See, this level requires Mario to move through water, and combine Mario's already mediocre water movement with a stone that slows him down even more, then you have a level that just gives you a massive headache. Waiting for the water to move up and down too is no fun at all. Really the only thing saving this is that the idea is just okay. Otherwise, yeah, this level is pretty terrible. 109, Lava Bubble Limbo. This is an underwater auto-scroller, but luckily the level idea itself is actually not that bad, where you have to avoid lava bubbles on tracks. It's really just the setting of the level that's holding it back. Maybe if it wasn't an auto-scroller, it'd be much higher. 108, On-Off Koopa Troopas. By itself, this level isn't the worst thing ever, but when looked at in the context of the rest of the story mode, it starts to get a bit weak. This level has Mario use the on-off switch to move Koopas towards keys. However, several other levels use the on-off switches in very similar ways. Heck, Ancient Seesaw Fortress uses a Koopa on-off contraption right at the start, so this level just sort of feels like a waste. It's easily the worst on-off switch focused level, which there are a lot of. That is definitely understandable though, since it's such an important new element, but the high amount of levels just makes this one feel a bit weaker. Plus the slow movement of the Koopas certainly doesn't help. 107, The Mystery of the Haunted Manor. This level is primarily held back by just one section. The beginning of the level is fairly decent, requiring the player to get a Yoshi from one of the rooms in order to steal a P-switch from the other. It's after using that P-switch though that the level takes a bit of a turn for the worst with the P-switch maze. You basically have to activate a P-switch and guess what path you're supposed to go down to get to the end before the timer expires. I just find this really tedious and unfun to run through. If this segment had been replaced with something else, then this would likely be much higher. As it is though, this isn't a terrible level. We're certainly stepping up when it comes to quality here. Our next few levels all share the same problem. They're all way too short. Not that short levels are necessarily bad, it's just that they don't really stick with you like the medium or long levels do. First off, we have 106, Piranha Creeper Squash. In this level, you have to kill a Piranha Creeper. And that's it. Yeah, I wasn't kidding when I said these were short. This is the worst of the short levels though because the Piranha Creeper hitboxes suck. 105, Head in the Clouds. This level is literally 9 seconds long, if that. There is a bit of challenge when working with the cloud's momentum, I guess, but yeah, this is basically nothing. 104, Blooper Barrage. In this level, you have to kill 10 whole bloopers. This one is made a bit more fun than the last few due to the low gravity and cape, so I'll give it that. 103, Molten Rain. The idea here is a bit more creative, requiring Mario to kill 7 lava bubbles using a shellman. I also think Mr. Eraser's theming behind his 3 levels being about assassinating enemies to be really funny, so that gave this the boost it needed over the last few. 102, Pow Block Wake Up Call. This is our final short level for now, and it easily has the most creative method of murder yet, using flying power blocks coming from pipes. Unlike the other short levels, this one does have a decent amount of challenge, so that's what puts it ahead of the rest of the pack so far. 101, 100 Coins Under the Sea. For an underwater level, this honestly could be a lot worse. Yeah, being underwater does hold it back, but going through and collecting all 100 coins is a decent amount of fun. Using the clear pipes to take out enemies is nice, and this one section where you go through a clear pipe surrounded by bloopers looks really neat. This level is just a bit too long though. Maybe if it was just 50 coins, I would have liked it a lot better. 100 Koopa Troopa Car Go. I'm just really not a fan of the Koopa Troopa car. To me, the levels using it really aren't that engaging, and this is no different. It definitely tries its best to make it work though. It's just that it's a bit difficult to make an actually interesting level using this thing. 99 Super Mario Bros. World 1-1. Wow, we definitely needed another 1-1 remake. Not like it's one of the most overused level concepts in Mario Maker or anything. Okay, but in all seriousness, it is kind of cute that they decided to make one as a bonus level in the story mode. It is a shame that their remake is basically just enemy spam though. It genuinely feels like a 9-year-old designed this level. The only thing keeping this up is the fact that it's a remake of the most popular level in video game history, but it doesn't have much other than that. 98. Fast Snake Block Frontier. Snake Block level number 3, but luckily this is definitely a step up. What makes this better than the first Snake Block level is the fact that there are actual obstacles here. Yeah, waiting on a Snake Block is a bit tedious, but since this level also uses the fast version, the level doesn't drag on for as long as it could. The segment with 3 Snake Blocks at once was also pretty neat, so this is definitely an improvement. 97. Deep in the Windy Valley. I actually do quite like the concept of this level. Basically, Mario has to ride down a moving platform and avoid enemies in the harsh desert wind. However, the way they did it makes this far too easy. You could just completely avoid every single enemy as none of them will actually land on the platform, so as long as you don't have a heart attack in the middle of this level, you'll do just fine. Me personally, I would have swapped the direction the platform is going to have it go upwards so that enemies would actually stay on the platform with you. I will say I do like the secret coins you can get if you kill Boom Boom, but otherwise there really isn't much to this level at all. Bizarrely, one of the most common level types in the story mode are auto-scrollers that use the Fire Clown Car. No clue why these are so common, especially since the Fire Clown Car was in the original Mario Maker, but regardless, these levels are just okay. You pretty much just spam the shoot button the entire time, but sometimes there are a few obstacles that can be somewhat tricky to avoid. Of the 3 we got, my order goes 96, that's one hot car, for being easily the most basic and slowest of the 3, 95, Red Yoshi's Highway of Flames because the high amount of fireballs from both the Clown Car and Yoshi are pretty fun to spam, and finally 94, on-off switcheroo, as hitting the switches provide for the most intense challenges between the levels. There are a few more Fire Clown Car levels later, but these are the 3 with auto-scroll, which puts them down lower. 93, Above the Clouds, Beyond the Vines. This is another auto-scroller, though it's much more unique as it doesn't use a Fire Clown Car. This one's main focus is climbing vines, which is a pretty unique concept as it isn't seen that much. It is a bit on the long and slow side though, but it's certainly a solid showcase of how Mario can move around using vines. 92. The Underground Menace. The central theme for this level is avoiding piranha creepers. This is a fairly decent traditional sort of level, and as I've said on the channel before, those are my favorite types of levels. What's holding this back from being higher though is the amount of waiting you have to do for the piranha creepers to move out of the way. It's really not that fun for me to have to constantly stop moving because of them. This is certainly a fairly solid level though, I just wish I could speed it up a bit. 91. Riverfish in the Forest. This level is just very basic, requiring Mario and Yoshi to avoid jumping Cheep Cheeps. There's nothing really wrong with this level, it's just sort of forgettable since it doesn't really have a super creative idea holding it together. 90. Underground Coin Collecting. This has Mario face several rooms full of enemies in order to collect the coins hidden within them. Conceptually, this is really solid, however all of the rooms are exactly the same besides the enemies, which does make this feel a bit repetitive. Oh, and also they didn't do the scroll stop right, so the screen annoyingly is able to shift one block at a time. 89. Ant Trooper March. This is just a pretty basic auto-scroller with a ton of ant troopers on the way. The speed of the auto-scroll is actually pretty quick, meaning this level is still fairly fast-paced. However, the level does feel just a little bit empty. 88. Target a Single Pom-Pom. While this is just another simple assassination level for Mr. Eraser, I do actually quite like it. The arena's use of track blocks makes this fight against Pom-Pom and her clones extra intense as you have to carefully watch each and every step. Sadly though, this boss fight is the entire level, so I can't put it much higher than this, but it's still very good. 87. Bouncing Through the Clouds. This is another shorter level where you have to bounce around and collect coins while avoiding bullet bills. While this once again does have the length issue, I would say it's a decent challenge to avoid all the bullet bills since you're bouncing around the whole time. 86. Spiny Busters. And for the final assassination level given to us by Mr. Eraser, we have to kill a bunch of Spinies. However, this time we have to attract Thwomps to crush them. This can actually be quite dangerous, and while yeah, it is pretty short, I'd still say it's a lot of fun to time the Thwomps to get as many kills as possible. 85. Bonsai Bill Ambush. I do like the idea of building a level around a large amount of Bonsai Bills crashing towards the player, though in practice it could be a bit better. Since this level gives you a Katsu, it's really easy to avoid the entire challenge. Personally, I would have recommended keeping the player on a mushroom so they couldn't climb over the whole thing. I do like having the option to rush though. I'm very thankful it's not an auto-scroller when it definitely could have been. 84. Launching bombs, collecting coins. While I do like the idea of needing to use the Mario World up throw to collect coins, there are just far too many coins here for the amount needed. It's way too easy to get more than enough, so I would have liked there to be a few less places to collect them personally. One thing I do like about this though is the use of the nighttime airship theme, which makes the bombs float for much longer, making this level more enjoyable. 83. Toad Rescue. This is our first level to feature Toad, and in these levels you basically have to bring a Toad to the end of the stage by making sure they don't take damage. Of the 4 Toad levels in the game, this is easily the worst one. Why? Well, it's in the new Super Mario Bros. Nighttime Sky theme, so... 82, Boo Ring Course. Auto-scroll course again, though I do kind of enjoy this one as it's a bit more creative. The sole focus here is on boo rings. In the first half you have to stay inside of one, and in the second half you have to parkour around them. Now I definitely think they could have made this level work without auto-scroll, which brought it down quite a bit, however I did still have fun running through it. 81, plenty of Cheep Cheep in the sea. Yeah, this is another underwater level, but it's honestly really well done. I like the use of the Cheep Cheeps acting as big walls that you have to avoid. They easily could have made you have to wait for the Cheep Cheeps like in some other levels, however they actually use them to chase toward the player here, making it much more intense. Really the only thing holding this back is the fact that it's underwater, but for what it is, this is pretty solid. 80, Angry Angry Sun. The first half of the stage here is really good, requiring Mario to jump between several different clouds while also avoiding the angry sun and other enemies. It felt just like a traditional level, which made the second half being another auto-scroller all the more heartbreaking. To be fair, it is a bit more unique, using clouds on tracks, however it is a bit too long for me to put it really high up. At least it does work pretty well with the angry sun, but overall I'm not really that big of a fan. 79, A Downhill Battle. This is the very first level of the story mode, and it's honestly pretty solid. It doesn't really have much of a theme besides maybe slopes, but that's alright. This is just meant to introduce you to the story mode, and it does that excellently. I always knew this would be low, but honestly it scored a lot higher than I thought it would. Again, not that it's bad, far from it, it's just basic, but again, it's what it's supposed to be. In a similar vein, 78, Hello 3D World. This is the same as the last level, though it acts as an introduction to 3D World. There is a bit more going on in this level with a few fun big coins to collect, which is what gave it the edge, though really these are both just pretty solid introduction levels. 77, Heavy Stone Heave Ho. Now we've hit stone level number 2, and thankfully this is not underwater. While I will say this is a bit slower than I would have liked, it is kind of fun to traverse the level using the note blocks placed along the ground. The other stone levels besides you showcase how to use this a bit better. 76, Twisting Through the Desert Sands. This actually has a lot of similarities to the last level. Yeah, it's also an SMB3 desert level, but I more so mean it features an element, in this case a twister, with much better showcase levels later on. This is even pretty slow paced just like the last one, so overall, while it's still a decent showcase of the twisters, I'd much rather play through some of the later levels. 75, Boom Boom Rager. Honestly, this one is just really strange to me. This is a really nice looking level where Mario has to run through several buildings filled with boom booms, but he doesn't need to fight any of them. Yeah, I mean I can understand being able to skip some, but all of them seems a bit weird to me. I think they should have had you need to fight at least one to get the goal, but the level itself is still fun to run through if a bit easy. 74, Boo's Towering House of Terror. This was a pretty solid traditional ghost house, displaying what the Boo enemy is capable of. The large hordes of Boos throughout the level, whether it be a small obstacle course or a moving platform segment, keep this level feeling pretty intense. In fact, the only part I don't like is this part right here. Why? Well, it's because, yeah, invisible blocks are stupid. 73, Monty Mole Iceberg Getaway. There's nothing awfully special about this level, just a fun traditional combination of Monty Moles and ice blocks. Really the only thing holding this back is that it's just a bit basic, but it's still a lot of fun to run through. 72, Red Pow Block on the Move. This acts as a solid, though pretty easy showcase of the Red Pow Block item. It shows off a few of the interactions it can have, such as breaking bricks and even activating exclamation mark block. But yeah, this is just a pretty good showcase. 71, Fly By Night Clown Car. Here we have our 4th Fire Clown Car level. I wasn't kidding when I said they made a lot of these. Luckily though, this one isn't an auto-scroller, so it's a lot more fun. On top of that, it's also a lot harder than the last few, forcing Mario to go up and down a lot more, giving his opponents more chances to strike. I will say the boss battle at the end is a bit of a drag, but otherwise they did a great job here. 70, The World's Greatest Cannon Ride. This is a mostly traditional airship, which sadly means it includes auto-scrolling once again. While that is a bit slow here, they throw in plenty of cannons to keep you occupied in the meantime. I really like the ending of this level where you have to not only avoid cannonballs falling directly on top of you, but you also have to use cannonballs to make it across a big gap. I still think I would have liked the level better had it not had an auto-scroll, but this certainly works. 69, Bumper Jump Around. This is sadly another auto-scroll level, however it's actually a pretty unique one as the entire thing takes place over bumpers. Jumping on them while avoiding obstacles is actually surprisingly fun, plus this integrates the auto-scroller pretty well with all of the objects placed on the tracks along with the falling icicles. Auto-scroll levels aren't bad by default, they just have to work well around the mechanic, and I think this one does so decently. 68, Wobbly Seesaw Castle. This is another Ride the Platform level, though this one of course features the seesaw. While it is once again a bit slow, this works well with the auto-scrolling sort of gimmick. I really like how low the seesaw rides above the lava. It means that the enemies that land on it are able to lean it towards the lava, on top of Mario himself being able to do the same. Again, it's only really held back due to it being a bit slow, but it does work with its platform very well. 67, Under the Angry Sun. This works as a showcase level of both the Angry Sun and the propeller suit. Just like the last few levels, this is a bit slower paced, however there are plenty of obstacles and extra challenges you could take part of using the propeller. I really like to ride across a long line of question mark blocks, and all these mini coin collecting spots really bring this level alive and make it more exciting than it would have been otherwise. Oh yeah, we also get to look at the new Super Mario Bros. Sun. 66, Spiny Shell Smashers. The first half of this level is really good, requiring Mario to use the Spiny Shellman to carve a path for himself while also avoiding enemies. Sadly though, the second half of the level takes place on everyone's favorite item, the snake block. It does work with the item fairly decently though, you still have to carve a path for yourself, and just like the last level, there are plenty of extra coins to collect on the way. These used invisible blocks in a really creative way, so collecting a lot of these was pretty fun. So while it was a bit slow paced, it still had a great first half and a good amount of content to do during the snake block portion. 65, Chain Chomp Chiller. This one just has a really fun idea. In this level you are giving the no jumping condition, however you still have to avoid the level's several chain chomps. How does Mario do this? Well, he uses the chain chomp's own jumps against them by running under them as they move. This is a really unique way to use the enemy, and they even put in several different scenarios such as a snake block or on springs. The last one especially is neat as you have to place a spring under the chain chomp in order to move him out of your way. The only thing bringing this down is once again the snake block segment for being slow, but otherwise this is pretty solid. 64, Airship Flight. This is another level featuring the no jumping condition, though in this case the level is more focused on the no landing part of it. You have to use a cape to slowly fall past several edges and obstacles, which is a very creative way to look at this clear condition. Sadly though, I personally think this level is way too long. Additionally, there's this part where all you do is climb up twisters and nothing else. I feel like they could have tightened this up a bit better personally, but its concept is still very strong. 63, Sail the Skies Without Jumping. Third level in a row with this clear condition. This takes a more standard approach to the concept, however I think its execution is much better as there's no long segments without needing to take any action. I will say though that some of these platforms can be annoyingly finicky, which makes me appreciate a different no jump level more much later in the list. Still, this is a pretty solid use of the clear condition. 62, Begone Rotten Mushroom. This brings us back to an auto-scroller, though this is definitely one of the better levels at using it. This has Mario in a 1v1 against a rotten mushroom, which will follow him throughout the entire level as they make their way across several obstacles. I love how intense this level feels. The rotten mushroom stays right behind you the whole time, making this one of the most memorable levels in the game for me. I do think it drags for a bit too long though, and if you add on the fact that there's no checkpoint, this level can easily get frustrating. Still though, the concept is overall pretty strong. 61, Good Lakitu, Bad Lakitu. Basically you have two Lakitus following the player, one that drops helpful items like POWs and the other one that drops down enemies. They also nail the execution of the Lakitus as well, keeping the ceiling low so Mario can't interact with them, but making that ceiling out of bricks and one-way walls so that he can still interact with what they throw. The only thing bringing this level down is of course the fact that it was cursed to be an auto-scroller. Since Lakitu follows the player on the screen regardless of scroll, I definitely think they could have made this level without it, but even still, I do enjoy the concept here a lot. 60, Lava Bubble Castle. Yeah, it's another auto-scroller, let's go ahead and get that out of the way. This time around, you have to dodge a lot of lava bubbles. These aren't your standard lava bubbles though, as they will actually fall from the sky. The way they fall down from different angles makes playing through this level incredibly unique. I do wish that you weren't given a shellmet though, as it can make the level much easier than it would be without it. Still a really good concept executed fairly well. 59, Summer Shootout. Take what I said about the previous cannon level having a cool jumping on cannonballs segment and stretch that into the entire level. One thing I really like about this is that they give you a big Goomba shoe in order to make the jumps a bit easier, which is definitely not something I would have ever thought of doing. While this is once again another auto-scroller, it was definitely necessary in this case, so I'll give it a pass. Just a pretty solid idea with pretty solid execution. 58, Master of the Trees. This features another thing not seen in the Maker, in this case being the clear condition to do a handstand on a certain number of trees. While there's not much danger in this level, it is just a pretty comfy run through a vertical section with bullies and trees. I will say that the clear condition really doesn't affect the level much at all since it would be harder to skip the trees than take them, but I still appreciate the uniqueness here. 57, Blinking Block Blitz. Design-wise, this is very similar to the last level as they both take place in a vertical sub-area. This one, however, is definitely a bit harder with a few more enemies in the titular blinking blocks, adding for a bit of extra challenge. Oh, and also this is one of the 2 levels in the entire story mode to feature the Hop Chop, so appreciate him while he's here. 56, Big Showdown on a Little Star. This is just a very simple level showcasing the low gravity and the nighttime sky theme. The use of note blocks to make everything bounce to show off this low gravity was a very good idea and makes this a lot more fun to glide through. Sure, this level is very simple, but it's just a really fun and comfy level to go through. Our next 2 levels heavily focus on the twister and what it can do. My least favorite of the 2 is 55, Above the Clouds. This is definitely a good showcase for them, and running through the level is quite fun. They were able to combine the twisters and low gravity of the nighttime sky theme to make some really unique obstacles that aren't possible anywhere else. What's holding this one back is that I just think it's a bit more basic overall than 54 Climbing Twister Cave. I just think this one had much more unique obstacles, like having to carefully move around twisters to not get pushed into the spikes. Also, the end of the level is just phenomenal as you get to just execute an entire twister family, which I just find to be really funny. 53, on-off rail switch. Alright, back to our auto-scroll / moving platform levels. This one I do find a bit more interesting though, as it is a lot more interactive, requiring Mario to hit an on-off switch to direct the platform. I like how not all hits on the switch are required and you can continue through the level without hitting some of them, even if it makes it harder. The obstacles are also all really well placed to make this level tight and intense, which is how I feel platforming levels like this should be. Plus the mole and twister is a really creative combo that I don't see enough of. 52, seesaw catapults. This is our second seesaw level, though instead of riding along one on a track, this time we actually have to use them as catapults. This is a great highlight of the catapulting feature, showcasing several different scenarios where it could be used. 51, swing claw swing. This level's central focus is on the claw's ability to pick up and drop items. It does this with 5 separate rooms, which I think is the perfect amount to showcase how many different ways this gimmick can be applied. Yeah, it is a bit slower paced than I'd like, but it's still a very nice showcase for this mechanic, and I really don't see how else they could have done it. 50, dry bone shell boating. Finally, we got ourselves a good level with the dry bone shell. Since we had such a bad one earlier in the list, the improvements are very clear as we can easily compare them. While this level also has rising and lowering liquid, in this case lava, you almost never have to stop moving completely, and even when you do, it's very brief. This level is able to keep up a good pace with a decent amount of obstacles, which makes this a significantly better dry bones boating level than whatever garbage we got before. 49, Koopa Clown Car coin collecting. While this isn't particularly hard, I do like how fast paced the level is with its 100-second timer. Flying around the bumpers and other clown cars is pretty fun. Again, not hard, but fun nonetheless. 48, threat level Porka Puffer. This level acts as a showcase of the Porka Puffer enemy. What I really like about this is the fact that they show us how the enemy works both above and in water. The first segment gives us a chance to jump around it on the surface, and then we have to go into a pipe to fight it directly. This is actually one of the few times I prefer an underwater section, simply because I really like watching the Porka Puffers explode. Both segments are very well designed, so I'm a big fan of this one. 47, Fire Koopa Clown Carnage. This level is the best we've seen using the Fire Clown Car item so far due to how compact it is. It's the easiest to take damage on, and if you add on the fact that it's not an auto-scroller, then you end up with a level that I enjoyed quite a bit. The only thing holding this back from being higher is its overused idea to use the Fire Clown Car, but it does do it well, so that's not really a big complaint. 46, Treetop Fireballs. This combines trees and fire bros in order to create a pretty fun, mostly traditional level. What makes this so memorable is the fact that it's the second level to use the story mode exclusive tree clear condition, though I think this one does it much better than the first one as we actually need to go out of our way in order to climb some of these. This is split into 2 sections. The first is a mostly traditional run past a few fire bros where you have to remember to climb the trees. I also find it interesting the way they use track blocks here, adds a little bit more personality to this level. I do think the second portion in the vertical sub area was a bit too slow and easy for me, especially since you're pretty much forced to get a star. As a whole though, this is a much better showcase of the climbing trees clear condition, that we never get to use. 45, Dry Bones Lava Lurker. In this level you have to... Mario, what are you doing? No. Mario, stop! Mario, stop! He's gonna kill all the dry bones! Mario, why? Okay, but in all seriousness, this is another short and fast-paced level. I do wish the rising lava wasn't here, and instead the challenge was purely defeating the dry bones within a small time limit, but this is still a pretty good level, just as long as you imagine you aren't killing any dry bones. 44, High Atop Thwomp Tower. This level acts as a showcase for Thwomps in 3D World. They're seen as obstacles, things to ride, and even how they can be used to unlock secrets. I really enjoyed the showcase of Thwomps, but one I enjoyed a bit more was 43, Impassable Castle. This is a sort of combo of a traditional and puzzle level, which I find to be a really solid combination. Sometimes the Thwomps and Chain Chomps just act as simple obstacles, and other times you have to use them in order to break bricks. If I were to find a single flaw with this level, I'd say I wish you actually had to kill the boss. It's a really creative one where you have to lead the Chain Chomp into the Thwomps, but you could just as easily ignore the Chain Chomp entirely, which is a little lame. Still a very good stage overall though. 42, House of Exclamation Mark Blocks. This is a showcase of the exclamation mark block and how it can be used on a platforming level. There's not much to say here other than they did a really good job showcasing its extending mechanics. The only one I didn't like is this one at the end, since there's really no indication that you need to use a Koopa shell before you activate it, which can easily lead to accidentally being crushed or having to wait for the blocks to go away. Otherwise, this is a pretty fun platforming level. 41, Slinging Claw Ropes Course. This is just a very solid showcase level of how the claws can be used in platforming. There are numerous different scenarios where the claw is used, but they all flow together extremely well. However, the reason that this level is so memorable to me is because of how it looked before Mario Maker 2 launch. Now, I made a video a long time ago describing many of the changes to the game's story mode levels among other things, though the most interesting change in the entire game was present in this level. For whatever reason, this level was actually orange before launch, which I honestly like a lot more than the standard blue underground. There's no way to access this orange version of the underground, and since the underground was blue in the original Mario Maker, I'm really curious as to what this was supposed to be. But besides the beta stuff, this level did turn out pretty good, even if I wish it was still orange. 40. Icicle Playground. Despite this level being titled around icicles, I'd say it's got a much stronger focus on the big mushroom and ice blocks. That's far from a bad thing though. In fact, I think they did a pretty great job on this combo of items. Icicles are of course present at the start of the level, where you have to run past a bunch of them before needing to run backwards after getting the big mushroom, which I thought was pretty cool. The second half of the level though is my favorite, where you have to use the big mushroom's ability to break blocks to carefully maneuver through an ice block cluster. Twisters and Goombas are also hiding within the walls, so it's very easy to take damage, making this a pretty fun and unique level concept. 39. Buried Stones. Here we have ourselves another stone level, this time taking place in Super Mario World. Similar to the last level, you have to run through a traditional sort of level before running backwards once you get the item you need. This time though, it's a Yoshi, who is able to use his tongue to grab objects through walls. This mechanic is also shown off pretty well by the coins in the walls right next to the Yoshi egg. From there, you have to go out and find a stone Yoshi can reach through the wall, and then make your way back to the end of the level. I think this is one of the most creative uses of both Yoshi and the stone in the story mode. I do think the level could have used a few more obstacles, but the central puzzle was strong enough to make me really enjoy this. 38. Coin collecting on an unmanned airship. This is Mario run through an airship level while collecting coins. Okay, I feel like that was pretty self-explanatory. Anyways, I just think this level was really well paced. It requires Mario to collect all 50 coins, which I think is the perfect amount to be challenging while also not lasting too long. This leads Mario to go through several of the mini obstacles placed throughout the stage. I just think this level was really well done, no complaints from me. 37. On-off switch research expedition. As the first level of many to focus on the on-off switch, this actually did a pretty good job. It shows how the blocks can be used to change the stage by giving Mario platforms, removing walls, or even letting Mario move objects towards him. If I were to criticize one thing, I'd say that I don't like the Koopa Shell bit as it goes on for a bit too long, but the rest of the level is pretty fun. 36. Lava Rising. This level could have very easily been quite annoying, however they were able to pull off the concept to near perfection here. In the first half of the level, you have to avoid rising lava in a vertical segment. I'm really happy this is not an auto-scroll section, as you can pretty much go as fast as you want. There are even some secrets along the way that you can get if you're going fast enough. The second half of the level has Mario ride a lava lift on top of and through the lava. I've always had a soft spot for this type of moving platform level. It's really fun to jump directly over lava and then get saved by the platform at the last second. It makes the level really exciting, so I'm a big fan of this. 35. Invincible Wind Sprinter. This is probably the single fastest paced level in the entire game, as Mario not only has the extra speed granted to him by the star, but he's also being pushed forward by the nighttime desert winds. I absolutely love this combo as it makes running through this level a blast. The only change I'd make is to make the level a little bit longer, as right now you only ever use up less than half the timer, and I think it'd be more fun if it was closer to the time limit. 34. Dash on, dash off. This level is pretty simple all things considered, but it's one of the most fun in the story mode. It's another speedrun level, though this time it focuses on the use of on-off switches. This isn't just a hold forward speedrun level though, as there are several times where you have to actually turn around, which makes this level much more intense than it would be otherwise. Not much else to say other than I really love running through it. 33. Freezing Rain. This is another speedrun level of sorts, though instead of having to worry about the timer, Mario instead has to worry about the billions of icicles ready to immediately fall on his head. What I especially like about this level is just how perfect it is at showcasing the long jump, which I feel isn't focused on in a lot of levels. There are also a few split paths you can take, which is not something I see very often in speedrun levels. Okay, slowing down from those 3 speedrun levels, we have our final 4 levels that I'd say fall into the auto-scroller / moving platform level category. 32. Hold Your Breath. This features a story mode exclusive clear condition that we haven't seen yet, requiring Mario to never leave the water in order to beat the stage. Now you may think that since this is a water stage, I wouldn't like it. However, I think they use this concept extremely well. Mario has to carefully move through several level segments while the water raises and lowers. What really makes this level though are the Magic Koopas, as they're able to transform the level's many bricks into enemies to attack Mario. There's not a single moment in this level you can relax, which is how I think auto-scrolling or waiting levels should be handled. 31. Bang Bang Boom and Bully Castle. This level focuses on both the titular bully, but also the crates. Mario has to use the crates in the first half of the level to make paths for himself across the lava, and the bullies are used to push him around or even break the crates. My favorite part of the first half of the level though is easily the bully jump scare. The second half brings in the auto-scroller aspect, however this is extremely creative. You have to try and stay on top of a pile of crates floating up the lava, but you also need to stop the bullies from knocking you off or the bombs from blowing up the crates. Like the last level, there's almost no time to rest, making this a lot of fun for me. Due to how creative this idea is too, this got to place pretty highly on the list. 30. Get over it. I think the title of this level was the game's way of telling me to cope with the absurd amount of auto-scrollers. However, as it turns out, this one is actually really good. This requires Mario to use his wall slides and wall jumps to avoid falling into the slowly lowering poison. However, on the way, there are also several saws that Mario needs to avoid, which keeps the player on their toes the entire time. Funnily enough, my favorite section is the last bit using a snake block. The reason I like this is because you have the option to go on either side of the snake block to collect more coins, which just adds a nice bit of depth to this level. So for staying intense throughout the entire duration and for not going on for too long, this is definitely my favorite level using the auto scroll feature. It's not, however, my favorite level that has Mario move alongside something. That honor belongs to 29 Vines in the Castle. What sets this level apart from the rest is the fact that this doesn't use a platform, but rather vines on tracks. The first section of this level you can take at your own speed, climbing up the 4 moving vines past the wigglers. This is a much more interesting obstacle course than, say, above the clouds beyond the vines, just due to how the vines moving affects your ability to dodge the wigglers. The second half expands on the moving vines idea by bringing Mario into a long horizontal section where he has to dodge several saws. That by itself is pretty good, but what makes me like this a lot more is the way that vines move on the tracks. They don't stay at a constant Y level as they constantly move up and down, meaning you have to always stay focused on where you and the vines are at all times to ensure it doesn't pull or push you directly into a saw. That unique movement on top of the creative use of vines is what sets this apart from the other moving platform levels. 28. Let's go, Builder Mario. This just acts as a simple but really well put together showcase of all of Builder Mario's abilities. The Thwomps and Piranha Creepers both work really well to showcase the hammer, and the Piranha Creepers even used well to show off the crates. The only part I think is kind of dumb is the Ant Trooper part, since it's not clear at all that they can't be killed by the hammer, but other than that, this is a really good level. Our next two levels are both focused around the Goomba shoe item and how that can be used in levels. The first of the two is 27 Shoes in the Clouds. I find this to be the weaker of the two, but it's still a really good showcase as it provides for many obstacles that only the Goomba shoe would be able to go through. It even lets you upgrade your Goomba shoe near the end of the level. But that upgrading aspect is actually the reason I think the next level is a bit better. 26 Shoe Stopper. Not only does this provide for a good obstacle course like the last one, but it also shows off several different Goomba shoes and what makes them unique from the others. The level starts out pretty basic, but then you're able to collect a big Goomba shoe to display the shockwave, then a big Goomba stiletto to break blocks, and finally a winged Goomba shoe to make larger jumps. I really like how this level builds on itself as the power-up builds up too, making this the best Goomba shoe showcase level. 25 Rotten Produce. The reason I like this so much better than the other Rotten Mushroom level comes down to two things. One, I like how much more chaotic this level is, having several more rotten mushrooms constantly spawning from red pipes. Secondly, this one isn't an auto-scroller, making it much more fun to run through. The added dry bones and munchers all help make this an even more chaotic level. 24 Meowser Showdown. You know, for featuring the worst boss in Mario Maker 2, this is one dang good level. This is split into 3 parts. First off is a simple platformer segment using exclamation mark blocks. This is where we get our first glimpse of Meowser, though more importantly, we actually get to see the Hop Chop in a level again. Can you believe it? Then we have a section using the car, and while I still don't find it the most exciting item in the world, they certainly try their best with it here by giving the player multiple routes for secrets and having the lava rising from the bottom to add a sense of urgency. But of course, we then have the final section, the showdown with Meowser himself. This is extremely well done as it starts with a climb upwards with Meowser chasing close behind. After reaching the peak, you then have to defeat Meowser using 4 red POW blocks, which is a lot better than Fireball spam. I just really appreciate how this level perfectly showcases how to use this pretty niche boss. And to top all of that off, this also has a unique element at the end, that being Toadette in a cage. Sadly though, we do have to free her, but that was fun nonetheless. 23 Little Toad Lost. This acts as our introduction to the Toad level concept, and I think it does so pretty well. The several bonsai bills make Toad getting hit very common, but there aren't so many that it feels annoying or unfair. Sure, this may be a pretty simple level all things considered, but it's a good tutorial for Toad. 22 Cat Scratch Stone. Back-to-back levels centered around objects we can't use. Hooray. But if we could use the stone, this is a fantastic showcase on how we could in the 3D world style. This specifically combines the stone with clear pipes, allowing for Mario to transport it without having to always hold onto it, eliminating the minor annoyance of slowing down when held. My favorite part of the level though is easily the ending puzzle to get the top of the flag, where Mario has to make a shot into a clear pipe from afar in order to get it to the top platform. I love doing this every time I play the level, and the rest of it is a lot of fun as well. Our next 3 levels all have a similar central idea. You have a main area, and then you go down a pipe when you can't progress, which brings you to a slightly altered version of that area. My least favorite of the 3 is 21, Winter, and Spring, and Winter again. I think they get really creative with the switch-ups where you have to keep swapping the seasons to progress. The reason this is lower than the next few is because some of the changes don't make a ton of sense, but really that's just a nitpick. It's a ton of fun to see what they came up with. The next level is 20, Tunnel to the Dark Side of the Moon. This level will have you go to a flipped version of the stage whenever you enter a pipe. However, it won't look flipped as it'll actually use the nighttime underground theme. All of the changes this time around make perfect sense, and it's fun to see the solutions to these puzzles all come together. I do think this idea is slightly better executed in 19 upside down stretches. The concept for this level is the same, though I like how more in-depth the puzzles are, requiring the use of on-off switches at parts. It definitely makes this the most interesting level of the three. 18. The Road to Wall Jump Mastery. This is a pretty challenging obstacle course focused on the titular wall jump. It tests several aspects of using the move, like controlling your height to avoid saws and bullets, alongside timing your wall jumps with one section having a wall turn on and off repeatedly. I've got absolutely no complaints for this level, it's definitely a lot of fun. 17. Blink Blank Blunk. A level based on the blinking blocks could very well have been pretty bad as you wait for them to slowly turn back and forth. However, this level keeps the pace pretty high throughout the entire time. The blocks are generally placed in groups of both colors, so you can almost always continue progressing no matter what state the blocks are in, which is a lot more fun than waiting every 5 seconds for the blocks to swap. There are also a lot of fun little secrets to collect, like the big coin in the sub area. This is just a fantastic traditional course. 16. Goomba Clubhouse. This level is an exploration based level where you have to violently invade these poor Goombas' home in order to steal their pink coins. Seeing as my favorite game is Mario Odyssey, I'm a big fan of exploration, and this definitely doesn't disappoint. Going into each room and completing its mini challenge, whether it be to sneak by a Goomba with a clear pipe, jumping past Goombas walking back and forth, or whatever else, is a ton of fun. They did a great job here. 15. Swinging Claw Escape. This features our final story mode exclusive feature that we haven't seen yet, and that's the clear condition to beat the level without being grabbed by a claw. I love how this opens up for unique obstacles as you have to carefully maneuver around claws and enemies alike. Then again though, maybe I only think this is really unique because Nintendo won't let us use this in our level even though it's clearly perfectly programmed into the game. 14. No jumping allowed. Oh wait, sorry. 14. No jumping allowed. This uses a clear condition that we can actually use ourselves in the editor, which is the one where we can't land on the ground after leaving it. This is used to show a variety of different scenarios where this condition could be used, such as needing to avoid claws, needing to ride a mole, or just generally taking extra care where you step. Although, don't tell anyone, you can't actually beat this level after jumping, you just have to do it at the end. 13. No Jump Snowfield. This builds a bit off the last level, though it also combines the no jump condition with Mario World's ability to toss items upward. This was able to open up for a few more puzzles, which makes this a slight bit more interesting in my eyes. 12. Skip Squeak Towers. This works as a showcase for the Skip Squeak enemy, and I think I can honestly say that this level has the best usage of the enemy that I have seen to this day. Each room was able to provide for completely different challenges. You go from needing to have the Skip Squeak jump so you can get a mushroom, to needing to defeat them on a conveyor, to needing to run under them as they jump, to even sliding up slopes to defeat them due to the conveyor. I love how creative they got with all of these. Really shows off what this random and seemingly niche enemy is capable of. 11. Bonsai Build Chase Scene. We talked a lot about fast-paced speedrun levels earlier, though I think this one has to be my favorite. This involves Mario needing to quickly outrun Bonsai Bills by hitting on-off switches to clear a path. The way the level is designed, it forces Mario to continuously run near the Bonsai Bills to hit the switches, which makes this a lot more exciting than it would be otherwise. The looming threat of the Bonsai Bills always being nearby keeps this level feeling intense all the way through, which I really love. 10. March of the Rookie Toads. I absolutely love this Toad level for one simple reason: the sheer amount of toads you need to carry with you. With just one Toad, it was fairly easy to dodge any obstacle in your way, but with 10, you need to take extra care to avoid any sort of projectile. Unfortunately, a fire piranha plant and several other enemies harass you throughout the entire level, making this super easy to lose a Toad on. Having to scramble to quickly get each Toad back while also trying to make sure the others don't get hit is really fun. Overall, just a perfectly chaotic level. 9. Ancient Seesaw Fortress. This works as a fantastic showcase of all the different things the Seesaw platform can do. There are so many different puzzles here that each show off a unique mechanic behind this item. I also think this start is really neat where you get to fall down and get a preview of the whole level before going through it. This is always a blast to replay and feels like one of the levels they put the most time into just due to how dense with content it is. 8. Red Yoshi's Cheep Cheep Carnage. This one may not truly deserve to be this high, but I just think they executed the idea perfectly. Essentially, you get a Fire Yoshi and you have to choose between either the Fire Flower or Cape Feather to help you execute at least 25 Cheep Cheeps. Slowly descending and lining up your shots here is a lot of fun. I always go with the Cape Feather when replaying this level, but the Fire Flower is a lot of fun too. Trying to get all the Cheep Cheeps on a first go around is also a pretty great challenge. Despite being a sort of short and easy level, there's a lot of depth here with having multiple methods to achieve your goal. 7. Buzzy, the Movie, the Book, the Ride. Okay, I may have lied about Vines in the Castle being my favorite moving platform level because this one here is just way too good to ignore. This uses Bill Blasters to launch out a train of Shelmets for Mario to ride on top of, and he has to try and collect as many coins as he can before he reaches the end. The required coin amount is absolutely perfect to feel challenging, but also not unfair. I also love just how many different methods there are to collect these coins, especially the last 50 coins surrounded by POWs. If you accidentally hit one of the POW blocks, then you have to restart the entire level as it would instantly destroy your train, making it all the more satisfying when you do actually manage to collect this. I also like how the platform gets smaller as you go. They clearly put a lot of thought into making this level the best it could be. 6. Just a normal, everyday castle. The title is very misleading, as I found this to be way better than most castle levels. This starts out with Mario in one central room, and he needs to go out into various other rooms in order to collect items that allow him to progress. These items include P-switches, a spiny shelmet, and a fire clown car. These rooms all do a fantastic job showcasing each of these items and are even a bit challenging. I'm really happy with how this all came together. This is certainly not a castle you see every day. 5. Operation Total Eclipse. This level takes the concept of having one central room that splits off into several others and somehow improves it even further. This time we have to find 5 toads which have all been kidnapped, and then run through many challenges while making sure they don't take any damage. Every single one of these challenges are quick and fun to run through. This is just an extremely well designed level. 4. The Way of the Shell. This requires Mario to use the on-off switch and shells to collect 5 pink coins. These rooms each build on the last, getting more and more challenging to time the switch press. The concept is creative and I would say perfectly executed. I have zero complaints to give about this level. 3. Stone of Destiny. We have finally reached our last level that is impossible to make in the Maker, and that's of course due to the titular stone. The reason I love this level is because it displays a number of ways the stone can be used outside of just slowing down the player. It can be used as a platform, to reflect shells, to block bill blasters, and so much more. This is an absolutely perfect tutorial level to show just how creative players can get with a stone item for their own levels. 2. Secret of the Dry Bone Shell. And for easily the best level centered on my boy, we got this really interesting puzzle level based around the Dry Bone Shell. This is able to masterfully put on display all of the ways this item can be used, whether it be the ground pound aspect, the invincibility aspect, the jumping out of it aspect, or even just the shell aspect. Everything is covered here, and it actually does take some legitimate thought to figure out how to progress. The puzzles behind collecting the secrets especially are really good as well. I think it's pretty safe to say this is easily my favorite puzzle level in the game. Very proud of you, Dry Bones. But as for the number 1 pick, well, it was actually incredibly easy, as the Keymaster really doesn't have any other competition. There is just so much depth in this level compared to any other in the game that I really can't see an argument for anything other than this taking number 1. It starts Mario off with the option to grab either a POW, spring, or P-switch, which he'll be able to use to solve some of the many rooms puzzles in order to get a key. For Mario to beat this level, he needs to collect 4 of the keys hidden in these rooms. Each and every one of these rooms is fun, and figuring out different ways that items can be used here is great as well. But my favorite part of this level has to be the amount of choice you have with it. Like I said, you only need 4 keys, however there are a total of 8 in this level. This lets you choose any room you want to, just in case one or more of the levels are giving you trouble. However, if you decide to get all 8 keys, then the level will actually have an entirely separate ending available for you where you're able to collect a massive amount of coins. Getting all 8 keys is pretty challenging too, as one of the rooms is very well hidden, being in the pipe at the start that gives you a mushroom. Let me also just add that the puzzle there with the clown car is also probably my favorite one as well. This level clearly has the most depth behind it out of any other level in story mode. Sure, it may not be the hardest, but for having so many different options on how to beat it, on top of having a ton of different fun puzzles, the Keymaster gets to easily take number 1 as the best level in Mario Maker 2 story mode. But anyways, that's it for this video. Are you all mad that there's no levels focused on the Peepas despite them clearly being the most awesome enemy in the game? Let me know in the comments. This video turned out to be way longer than I was expecting, but hopefully you all still enjoyed it. I think I'm definitely going to make a shorter video for next time though. But I think that's enough from me. Dry Bones for Smash, and I'll see you guys next time.